Hey everyone, Carlos here with the Evolve Commerce Club. Who's going to co-host this conversation with me is my friend Gordon, and we're hosting today or now Joe Brunning, who's a Worldpay executive. We were talking a little bit about his career, what he's done. So Joe, we host conversations every Thursday online.
Yeah.
And I typically start our conversations with a controversial question.
Okay.
For you, I wouldn't say that this is a controversial question, but given how competitive the payments landscape is, and we were talking about this, like you have Adyen, PayPal, and Worldpay, and so many others. So why do we need another payment solution? And I'm not just saying Worldpay is just another payment solution, but why do we need another payment solution? And how do you see the payments industry evolving?
It's a great question. Why would we need another? I don't know if we inherently need another payments provider, but what we need the payments providers is to evolve with the market. I think specifically the digital appetite of customers, certainly post-COVID. Gordon, we're talking about AI. We're talking about online journeys and being able to facilitate different ways of payments, faster, more seamless, greater customer experience. Every single payments provider needs to be able to do that. If we're talking about Worldpay, we're over 30 years old. We've got the biggest market share in the UK. We have been acquired by Global Payments. We're now the single biggest pure play provider on the planet, bar none. And we need to be able to evolve. So we work regardless of whether it's online, face-to-face, we're talking about QR codes, any other native way you can take a payment. The newer businesses, the newer payments companies, they force the hand of the more established companies like Worldpay or Adyen to be creative and inventive, either to acquire those smaller businesses or to look at them and go, we need to be faster and more agile. So we have constant developments on our roadmap, whether we're looking at those face-to-face or online payments that have to be evolving. We're partnered with Sticky, who I was speaking to yesterday in our offices, and they have a very simple, customizable value proposition, which is pay in person, pay online, pay by QR code. And it's a really simple and easy way to implement. But the use cases that maybe Worldpay can't facilitate, we use our wider partner network to help us do that. And then that means every single use case, every challenge, every way a customer wants to pay, we can now facilitate.
Brilliant. We'll speak about AI, because this is an AI specialist here. But I'm curious to ask you about, okay, so you mentioned pure play, you mentioned partnership. So perhaps, because when I look at the payments landscape, I think it's such a massive, you need an education on itself. Like you have acquirers, you have processors, you have, what is pure play, and can you perhaps educate me on it?
Yeah, sure. So pure play, we're talking about traditional payments. So probably less in terms of, we're not looking at payroll, we're not looking at HR, we're not looking at, not so much specifically with FX. There are other FX providers like Revolut or Airwallex or Currency Cloud that are specialists in that. We do have FX value propositions, but it's more, we handle the payments and gateways for merchants, whether it's online or face-to-face. So if we don't handle the gateway and the acquiring, the gateway might come through another provider and we do the acquiring on the back end. And that would be the pure play payments, where we deal with taking the payment from the merchant, speaking to the schemes, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, take it to the bank, and then we send the signal back and the money to the merchant bank. And that's kind of pure play payments and acquisition.
And so tell me about partnerships in that sense, and how relevant are they for you?
Yeah, partnerships are mega relevant. It's a huge strategic focus of ours, Worldpay and Global Payments. We have a number of different partnerships that we have. So obviously I'm now partnered with Cloud and Commerce, who I'm here seeing today, who are a great go-to-market advisor for e-commerce. And that's working on an introducer basis. So where they have a shared customer base that we do, their customers can benefit from payments and have challenges. So they would effectively identify the challenge there and then refer them to us, and we can handle that challenge for them. So that would be our introducer or referral partnership. We have revenue share schemes in there, and we're not shy to say that because we want to advertise that. There is a big benefit to our partner network. They are incentivized to share business with us. We also have then integrated and ISO partners as well, where there's a tech integration for the integrated, and we're going to have to get different technologies embedded with them. And we also have that with our platforms as well, where it's a bit more complicated, that operate kind of on an ISO model where they sell Worldpay on our behalf. But we cannot reach the market by ourselves on a one-to-one basis. Us going to finance directors and CFOs, we cover a certain amount of ground. By partnering with businesses who operate across our ideal customer profile, we cover a lot more territory in a shorter space of time. So what that means is Worldpay can grow with the market, and then we can grow with them.
Interesting. Before we speak about AI, just one more question. So growth in payments is a vertical, let's say, play, or is it a territorial play, if that makes sense? And then how do you...
Yeah, excellent question. I mean, that's kind of like the golden question for any sales organization. Look, there are certain verticals that have a lot more white space than others. So we could take B2B and wholesale. I work that space quite a bit. It's a huge white space. It doesn't have as many traditional payments. B2B is historically 15 to 20 years behind the B2C area. So there's a big focus for them to generate a more like a B2C experience. So there is market segmentation, white space growth. And then you've obviously got market share, and we're looking at different territories. That is another area as well. And then you've got solutions that are fit for purpose for maybe SMB, more so than enterprise, and vice versa. So we have one of our gateways is really facilitated for enterprise customers. There's large development work, it has a lot of use cases. Being able to build a model of that fits for SMB because of the use cases, for example, working via apps, that is also segmentation, vertical, and also market share.
Gordon, you're building something in AI. We're speaking about how voice technologies are going to impact, our lives in general. So perhaps you have a couple questions.
Yeah, how important and in what ways do you think that AI is going to be kind of critical in the sort of future of the whole sort of competitive payments sector, which is massively competitive, as you said?
Yeah, incredibly. If you look at Worldpay, we've partnered with OpenAI. PayPal have made their own partnerships. There's a big focus on bringing in agentic processes into payments. People now will want to go on ChatGPT and go, find me a pair of trainers, or find me a baseball cap, a red baseball cap that's this size for this person with this branding, and it can show it, and being able to take the payment through that process is really important. It's an evolving process, because what's on people's roadmaps, businesses' roadmaps, there's only a certain amount they can take right now. But it is absolutely on everyone's roadmap. We do have AI built in currently to our Payment Links Plus, which is a new flagship payment links solution that Worldpay are providing. And where the AI plays into that is particularly with cart abandonment. If a customer has gone onto a merchant website, gone to purchase something, and then they've dropped out for whatever reason, there's been some churn. Now via some of that AI processes, it can be sent across different platforms, email, WhatsApp, text message, and other social platforms, TikTok and Instagram. And it can say, were you looking at this product? Would you like to purchase? And what we see is there's some really strong conversion metrics built into that.
That leads me to my next point, which, as you've said, you can communicate through email, WhatsApp, etc. But to me, to us, basically voice is ultimately what it's all about. That's the way that people, naturally interact. That's the way they want to interact. And so, you could set up a sort of personal relationship with effectively, say, a retail business where it knows you, it knows your history, your memory, his memory exactly. And therefore you could just basically say, look, okay, I looked at this yesterday, it will say you looked at that yesterday, can I buy it? And the whole thing is done with voice, including the payment processing. And I think that's ultimately the way the world is going to go. So we won't be, having messages coming or texts or emails or whatever. I mean, with Amazon at present, it will send you an email saying, well, you looked at this, or what about this? Are you still interested in that? But ultimately, the whole thing should be seamless with voice and basically kind of like a personal relationship with almost like your personal shopper within a particular organization that does absolutely everything for you.
Yeah. I think it will become that way. I mean, there's a huge element of the competitor space, and everyone's looking over the fence at what someone else is doing. So the first business that onboards, voice AI into payments, everyone else is going to go, how successful is it? What's the development work? That's successful. We need to get it in our processes too. So I think it's an evolving process. Yeah.
And it's moving quicker than people realize.
Very.
Very.
Perhaps you don't have to mention the logos, but your customers. Could you mention some of the customers that see some merchants seeing their client base already using GPTs and other LLMs to finish the purchase, and of course then you have Worldpay playing its role there.
I can't mention logos and using the LLM specifically into payments. That's really in its infancy right now. I'm probably the wrong person, not probably, I am the wrong person to speak on that in terms of
but it will
tech.
Happen, right?
It will absolutely happen. We're already on our calls internally where we know that there is on the roadmap. It's kind of what's being used today we need to facilitate and make sure that customers have a way to pay. But LLMs are certainly coming into it.
Well, what other things do you see that are coming then? For example, payment with your iris. Sort of. Do you remember the movie? What was it? Minority Report.
Yeah.
I think if we have KYC technology, right? I think it makes sense.
I think we're already kind of adjacent to that now with biometric processing with Face ID and thumbprint. I think the next part will be voice recognition as well. Verify that this is who you say it is. The thing obviously from a compliance, security, and that element, does this meet PCI standards and that kind of security protection? I think there's going to need to be a lot of work done on that because there's the risk, there's a high risk to it that there could be a lot of chargebacks and friendly fraud, as we would call it, where someone would say, I paid for this and Apple Pay was used via biometric, and then they go back and say, but it wasn't me. Someone picked up my phone and cloned my voice. So I think until the technology is really surefire, and there's probably going to have to be quite a few layers of security before that is approved.
But I think also, in order for these leaps and advances to happen, crime is, we spoke about it, crime is always ahead. So you're always playing catch up, right? Where do you see, I think before talking about, I really don't like talking about the future of things. So how do you see that the world changed since you joined payments? Or the payments landscape, what's changed there?
What's changed, I think, is, like we say, the digital appetite post-COVID. Everybody wants a faster, more seamless journey. People, for lack of a better term, have become a bit lazier. So, we always tell the story. I've got my MagSafe wallet stacked on the back of my phone, but a lot of people, if you want to pay for something, you're sat on a train and your wallet is in the bag on the luggage compartment, and you've not got a tokenized payment, you've not got mobile wallets, Apple Pay, Google Pay, then you're going to miss out on conversion opportunities because customers will simply go, I'm not paying for that, it takes too long, I can't be bothered. So the seamless journey has become a really big thing. So we could talk around a web page that used to have a checkout that was 3 pages with 14 clicks. Now they want 1 page and 3 clicks, and there are some businesses that can do that, certainly app-based. Others less so. So there's a big push to making that as quick and as secure as possible.
I think what's an issue, is I have got virtually my life on this.
Yeah.
And, if you lose it, you are really, really in trouble. It gets stolen, etc. And there's more and more and more, going on your phone. And that does kind of create more of a security headache, doesn't it? Particularly when it comes to, payments and fraud and whatever. And it's how do you, protect against that moving forward? It's a big issue, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, I mean, we would certainly assess. I mean, it's a tough one. If you're looking with the phone, there's inbuilt security with the phone, and then with your bank, where the customer can cancel their bank card. We can't influence that as a payments company. What we would look at, I guess, is before we'd onboard a merchant, we would look at the risk to them either on, as we call it, the MCC code, the merchant category code, so it comes into the vertical, and we would look at how many card failures are there, how many chargeback, how much fraud do we see in this vertical, and then from a compliance standpoint, Worldpay will look at it and go, do we have an appetite to onboard this merchant? Because if there is a significant amount of risk, we don't really want to be attached to that. One, from a chargeback perspective, because we lose money, and then two, from a reputational element as well. I think it's a broader industry challenge, not just with payments, but technology as a whole, to improve that. And in terms of that, I guess with the phone, how do they add the two-step factor? Do we come with a three-step factor authentication? You know, would that be the way it goes?
What happens is that the convenience element begins to diminish because you've got to go through more and more. I mean, it's like at the moment, you know, if I want to make an online payment from my mobile payment bank app, I'm now getting more and more, you know, are you sure about this? Do you know this person? And it becomes more of it's not quite as slick as it used to be.
My question is more like, Joe, and it's not necessarily a question, but maybe a reflection on what you guys are talking about. Is like, I'm sure you have colleagues in other countries, and then you're operating primarily in the UK?
I do.
Yeah.
Worldpay is a global organization, and global payments, hence the name, is also global. Yeah.
But I think a lot of what you're saying has to do with the regulators, right, and governments and whatnot. And so, perhaps if you know, of course, and if you can comment on some of the differences that you see in payments and regulations, or in the UK opposed to Brazil is very advanced. I'm not sure if you know.
Yeah, big growing market.
So how do you see how different those markets are, and maybe just an overview? Yeah,
so obviously I've never worked the Brazilian market. I've done a bit in Europe. There are some challenges to the sort of regulatory and compliance elements. I guess Worldpay as a whole, as an organization, kind of has its its standard approach to risk and regulation. We obviously have to comply because we're a group. We have to comply with them in totality. As a whole, there are different verticals and MCCs that require different levels of checks and risk. If you're looking at, the UK obviously has the Financial Conduct Authority, so there are certain businesses that need to be regulated from an FCA perspective. I can give you an example. I was dealing with a debt collector earlier this year, and we have to go through an AML check, and they are anti-money laundering, that is. They were not FCA regulated, so it changes certain factors about what they are basically able to deal with, from a payments perspective. We are pretty compliant, and then we have an appetite ourselves. I can't give you the T's and C's and the difference between the UK and other nations. There are mild differences. I think if you're looking at high risk businesses, verticals, there's a lot of it that comes into also the size of the opportunity. So we do have a kind of standard that if it's worth X amount, then Worldpay is more willing to take it on as a risk because it's worth more. If it's a smaller business, for example, in cryptocurrency, due to the volatility, much smaller appetite. If it's gambling, adult, same thing. Those are more reputational and then money, and then there's other regulatory elements too.
No question, of course, if people want to know more about yourself and Worldpay, what's the best way?
LinkedIn, obviously, fantastic way to get a hold of myself, and then Worldpay, we obviously have our LinkedIn page, and then emails as well. Come and get a hold of us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
That was cool.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Your education. Nice, man. Interesting that you mentioned debt collection. So we have on the one hand, we have board level leaders, and then we have high growth companies. And one of them, it's a company called Acclaim. They have an AI voice technology, and we're building an international advisory board because they operate in highly regulated environments like banks and telcos and stuff like that. So debt collection is one of the things that they do. It's quite interesting because they have this business case where 50% of the customer service of one of their clients, which is a major bank, and it's an UK bank operating in somewhere in Asia, is already made by the AI voice agent. Yeah, so it's super interesting what's happening in that space as well. So.
I mean, I can't say, I mean, if it's Philippines or somewhere like that, you know, I mean, is the regulation quite as established as here? Maybe not, but the technology is.
Second to none.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there will absolutely, like we were saying, the competitor space, people looking over the fence. It won't be long before those things. I say won't be long, it could be 2 or 3 years, but that stuff is coming.